Guys, welcome back to Piggy Pen's Tube.
Let's just pause that there. This video didn't go in any way to plan, so it didn't end up showing what I wanted it to show. It did in the first half hour. So the first half hour, for them two people that requested that's fine. Some guys might want to fast forward to, about 30 minutes in. There'll be a prompt on screen when the time comes, don't worry. But yeah, it's a bit of a roller coaster, this video, but I've kind of kept it and I'm publishing it, and I want you to think of it as a video inspiring you to not give up, first of all, not give up straight away, but then also how you can maybe turn things around when you're faced with more difficult colouring situations. So just bear that in mind. It weren't meant to be what it's turned out to be, but actually I still think it's quite useful. Anyway, enjoy it.
Where today I'm responding to a request on one of my videos in the first place, and in the second place on a video I did previously, flipping through these two watercolour books, this being one of them. I said that when I tried it out, I would take you on that journey with me. So it's for that, but also because on my basing in watercolour in the Kanoko Igusa book video, somebody, I think two people actually, asked if I would show more of the process, in terms of more of the basic process, I think is what they're kind of saying, is they'd like to see more of how I'm extracting my paints from my pans into my palette and mixing colours and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll put a timestamp on screen of where you need to just fast forward to if you're not interested in any of the basics. And the other thing I would say is I'm no expert. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos on watercolour in the past. I would really recommend that you watch a YouTube channel called, I think it's Jenna, Rainey. I will link her channel in the description. She's a watercolour artist, but she does a beginner course over a few videos, and I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes where she just took you through getting used to handling your brush while it's filled with water and paint, and a few simple techniques. And I had a little bit of a play on watercolour paper and really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend her, and I would have loved to have had time to watch even more of her stuff, because I would have learned a lot more probably. So this, I'm not an expert, but what I'm doing is, for somebody to ask me for that, it made me think, is there not enough out there for real beginners who are just thinking about using watercolour in colouring pages, particularly because, we're not even going to talk about actual art here. This is about colouring pages and colouring books, using watercolour in that respect. Today I'm not basing, I'm actually going to try and recreate this image here. So this is kind of a different thing, but than what we would normally do. However, this process here would be the same. And they asked me how I, go through the whole process, like how you're clipping your book down and stuff, and it never occurred to me that anybody would be interested. So of course, like I say, stamp on screen. Well, you won't even be listening to this if you've used it anyway. But you can fast forward to then if you want to skip this bit. But yeah, I'm happy to go through what I do and why I do it. Right, watercolour for me in colouring books, this is what I start with equipment wise. So I've got my brushes, and I like to use these for now because these are my newest brushes. So I treat myself to some Princeton Neptune, which are known for holding a lot of water. I think that's where they get the Neptune name from. And I got this set. I'll show you a packet from Amazon. There we go. It says Neptune, our thirstiest brush, watercolour. So in it we've got an aquarelle 3/4 inch, which is that one. An oval wash, which is this one, I think. No, that's round. Oval wash, 1/2 inch. Number 12 round and a number 4 round. Now I use the 4 round mainly in my colouring books. I would like an 8 or a 6 round, and I don't have one, so I would like one of those at some point, just for larger areas, because I just feel for a colouring page that might be a little too big. And then I've got this set that I've had for years and I never really used. You can see from the way that the hair, the brush hair has dyed. I've been using it on all sorts. I think I've used it to touch up my emulsion in my living room. My emulsion paint. So yeah, I've had these Yonkers. This is the brush that I use. This is a 3¼ inch oval wash brush, and I use it to sweep off my pencil scrape, you know, my pencil rubbings. So I'm not using that correctly, but you know, this is a Winsor & Newton brand, but it just shows you that you can get different sort of budgets, and even cheaper ones than these as well. That's a number 10, so that's going a little bit smaller, but I still think that's a big. And that's a number 6. That's not a bad size for colouring pages. So yeah, I think I'd like one of these Neptune ones in maybe a 6 or an 8, but I do like the 4. I get loads of use out of the 4. And that Kanoko Agusa page was done almost entirely just using that number 4 brush. So I'll put brushes to the side for now. You don't have to buy expensive brushes. I always tell you I only like to buy once, so I know that this don't count because I've had these for the last time I thought I was going to be an artist, you know. Every 10 years it happens, and I buy a pad and some brushes or pencils, and I don't even get through one piece of art. But colouring, for some reason, that stuck with me, so there you go. But yeah, I like to buy once, really, normally. So these are what I'm sticking with now, these Princeton Neptune. And I do like quite a lot of water, and I'll show you shortly how much water they can pick up. So brushes, first of all, don't have to go to too much expense. But obviously you get, you know, once you're into your watercolour, you'll probably see a difference. But I suppose when you're starting out, you might not. These are also really good paints, Schminke Horodam watercolours, and I've got a 24 half pan set. Half pan means that, you know, a full pan is larger than this. It's large, you know, twice as large as this, I would say. And so I've got a 24 colour half pan set, and I think I've got I swatched them all out on a big thing that's pinned up in front of me, so if you can see that. But it comes with a little swatch card. I've got an unboxing video of these paints as well. But yeah, so that's a small swatch card just so you can see as I'm talking. This I've found to be the best thing I've ever used as a paint palette. So it's a ceramic palette, and I just got it off Amazon, and it's got just the right amount of holes. I generally don't have to clean it. I can leave paint sat in there, you know, for ages. It just, because you can, you know, reconstitute watercolour, can't you? It can dry and you just add water again. And I've even used a dried up palette of paint on another page, you know, just use the same colours and just done a quick page in the paint that I already had dried up in this palette. So it's not always clean, this, but it is today. And then I always have 3 cups of water, and I like a cup that stays really quite clean. My whole process, my whole painting or colouring page or whatever I'm doing, this will stay more or less clear, because I have these 2 that came with some sort of trifle or dessert in, that kind of thing. So they were just, you know, free with some posh desserts. And I'll use one for my cool palette colours, really. I don't generally stick to it. I can be a bit, you know, distracted and I'll dip in wrong one. But the reason I have 2 is I use one for my cool colours, because I'm too lazy to go to the tap quite often. So, you know, cool blues and greens and things like that, I'll wash off in one, and then my reds and my browns and yellows and things like that, I'll wash off in the other. But after washing off my brush, I'll always dip it in here and give it a second wash. So that's why I have 3 pots of water. And again, I don't know if this is what watercolour artists do or not do. It just, I think I heard somebody say that they did that. I've picked it up from somewhere, haven't I? I haven't invented it, probably. So, yes, and I'm a bit of I like a tidy zone. You'll notice that most artists have a really messy, crusty palette, and I say that's excellent. They're true artists. I'm still a bit of a neat freak, so I like to keep things clean. I have this tea towel that I just stand my water on, so I don't end up with puddles of things everywhere. I always have one, and this is whether I do pencil work or any kind of colouring in. I always have a piece of kitchen towel to rest my hand on. My hands aren't greasy. I'm a compulsive hand washer, actually. because I bite my nails, so you have to have good hand hygiene when you're a nail biter. So I always have, it's not for oil or anything like that, I just don't like the feel. I always think I'm gonna, I don't know, get the page dirty or something, so I always have a piece of kitchen paper for that. And then I always have some kitchen towel. More environmentally friendly people will have another tea towel or another kitchen, you know, like a fabric one, and they'll use that. I haven't sort of progressed to that yet. I really should, for the environment, you know, save the trees and all that. But I've just got some bits of, you know, kitchen paper. This is just to dab my brush off. When I take it from the water, I like to just take off the excess, and it's just like a little touch like that for me. Not much. So I have those. Now, getting to my board, this I do for every single colouring page, no matter whether I'm using pencil or what. And the reason I do it is because I can't stand colouring. Let me see if I can show you in this book. I can't stand colouring with this bounce back. You know, so pen comes off, whether it's pen or pencil, I don't like the bounce back. So I want a completely flat surface, and now it's same. On the odd occasion I have dabbled with a bit of watercolour, you know, like when you wet your watercolour paper and you tape it down and that. I love that perfectly flat surface. So yeah, I do it to avoid page bounce back, which when a page is bouncing back, I touch my pencil on it. I'm too clumsy in places it shouldn't be touching, so that's why I always do this. Now, this is a top tip for you. What I do is I have these two bulldog clips. And I have this, one second, I have this piece of old hardboard, and I can't even remember where it came from, but it's always been what I've used as an easel, if you like, for the sofa. So I used to, if I were drawing or anything, I'd just stick my paper on and I'd be sat on the sofa. Something to rest on, really. But then when I started colouring pages, I used it to pin down my pages. Now, what I do every time, up here, all right, Rocket, you've just come in, you're not going out again. Up here on my shelf next to me, I have an assortment of bits of old brown paper and things like that. And it's because I used to keep one in every book when I had about 20 books, but obviously I can't do that now, so I've taken them all out. And I just like to have a sheet of something behind every page I'm working on. So if it's a double page, I'll have two, and that's what you can see here behind there. So I just keep them on my shelf, an assortment of different sizes. So I know I've got some Kirby size, some Hannah Carlson size, so I can just grab one whenever I need one. I wouldn't suggest you go, you know, cutting up paper to make these, but just as you go, you might find you have them, so I always save them. So now I don't have to cut any. So from there, normally, I've got two folded up bits of kitchen paper again, and these just stop these bulldog clips damaging my paper. So I just wrap them round the board like this. Usually, it's as simple as that, and I try and pin it somewhere where I'm not going to be working. Now, a top tip, I think, for me anyway, I hate working on the final page of the book because there's no support underneath it. So I use a book I'm not too bothered about in case I had like a spillage or anything. For me, that's World of Flowers. I don't see me coming back to this often, if at all, because I'm just into other stuff now. This was one of the first books I ever got. So this is perfectly sized, thickness wise, just to slip under your book. So that goes there, and it just supports that perfectly. For the, you know, a lot of our colouring books are all the same thickness, aren't they? So in those cases, I just support it. This is like a lot. This is overkill. This is a little bit of my, I suppose it's a bit like OCD. A lot of people just sit with a book on the sofa and colour, don't they, and enjoy it. But for me, I have to have all this in place or I won't enjoy it. So let's get me things clipped back on. If I went on holiday to colour, I would take all this set up. I would have to take the board and everything, the clips. Couldn't just take the book. So yes, I'm ready to go. I've got my 3 pots of water. This is you don't need this, but I like to use one, a pipette. These brushes will, this is just to carry water from here into my my palette. I like to start with a little bit of water in every little well. One of the first things I do. Just a little bit of water in every well. All done. But you can just, you know, wet your brush. These brushes hold a lot of water. And you can see, you might not be able to see, but I'll do it just into the centre for you. You see how the water, there's quite a lot of water in that brush. Don't know whether you could see that close up, but yeah, these do hold a lot of water. These, they're really good like that, these Princeton Neptunes. Now if you don't want a lot of water, you can go for other brushes. Princeton themselves, I believe, are good brushes anyway. Any kind of line that they do. So I don't like to leave my brushes stood in water either. Alright, so that's it, that's my setup. I hope I've covered everything that lady were interested in knowing. She did also want to sort of see more of like how we take the paint from the palette and the mixing, so I'll carry on with that. But I'll probably just get on with it now, and I will do a voiceover for the rest. Alright, a nice chatty voiceover talking about just life in general, as I always do, but also I'll tell you what I'm feeling about this book, which is Jolies de Maisons de France, which I believe is Beautiful Houses of France by Sarah Piro, if I remember rightly. I'm not going to take it back off my board to check. So yes, this is a body colour with the lovely Amy of Colour Me Amy. So we actually carried it over from last month because I was a bit flustered last month. And she's done hers and it looks fabulous. So his aim is to try and recreate this on this occasion. You don't have to do that. But the first time I thought I'd paint in this book, I wanted to see how close I could get to that. So I'm going to try and be mixing these colours today from what I have. And I'll take you on the process with me. And just a reminder, this is aimed at people just starting, really, like me. People who might feel that proper tutorials, while they're really helpful, maybe, you know, more helpful in terms of techniques and things like that, sometimes you just need leading in and your confidence building by watching somebody closer to your experience do something. I know I do. I love watching people who are more at my level attempt things because it gives me confidence to do so. So I hope that's what this is for you. It's certainly not meant to be a tutorial. I have not been watercolouring for even anywhere near enough time to even give anybody any advice. All I can do is show you what I do. Alright, so let's crack on with it. Oh, pull up my chair. My husband got me a new chair. It's a corker, fully adjustable. My bum's not gone numb for age. Well, I can't remember last time it went numb. It was certainly before I got this chair. Because believe it or not, I am sat here a lot. So, did I get my wells filled? Could have done with dusting that out, actually. You're best not adding too much water because obviously, but I like it quite translucent. I don't like it. I like it to be very watery, so I don't mind that. Right, let's start mixing some paints. So I also use my pipette, and I just let me think about what colours I'm going to be using. Can you guys see this area? Right, so obviously I've got a my swatch sheet in front of me, just hung up on the bookcase there, and I have this as well, which I'll put there for you guys, I guess. So yes, the colours that I think I might be using, well, so I'm looking at this green. Let's start getting something like that green together, because I like to get a few of my main colours in the palette before I even start. A proper artist, I imagine, will do one colour at a time. They'll be, you know, they'll be feeling it and all that artistic stuff. I'm a little bit more of a organised brain, so
I'm going to start with this, and I think I can knock it back a little bit with this brown. So I think I'll add I'll add them to the palette. What I like to do, rightly or wrongly, is so I add a bit of water and I try and let it sit. So I'm just looking at where these colours are in my palette. I'm probably going to use some. I'm probably going to use a touch of this black when I get onto this, and some blue, possibly. You can obviously wet as you go, but it helps it if it sits on your pan for a couple of minutes, I find. And I definitely think I'm gonna be, because we ain't got a match for any of these colours. We're gonna have to make the colours ourselves, which is fun. So yes, I'm gonna have some of that in, which I've sorted there already. I think this is a great colour. Yellow ochre. I've used loads of Naples yellow. I need to, well, there's loads left in it, but I can see it bottom at pan where I've been sticking my brush in, so I like that. I like that one. And then this darker blue, that tone's not bad, is it? That fourth one along, which is indigo. So let's get a dot of water in that. And I can always wet other stuff. You could wet everything generally, you know. Sometimes I just go like, if it's a bit more, if the painting's got a lot more, you know, a lot of different colours in it, I'll just wet them all. I can't seem to get my words together. Perimenopause is messing with me words and vocab and text and my grasp of English and grammar. I used to be rather good at, you know, forming words, paragraphs, sentences, and I get everything backwards now. And I notice when I'm texting, things sometimes a bit backwards for me. So I think that blue would be a good starting point. It's not a very purpley blue, but it does need a bit of a brighter blue. Maybe this one on hand, which is ultramarine, I think. And then we've got this lovely ochre colour. So we've got some water in yellow ochre. Like I say, a true artist would be a lot more free and, you know, spontaneous than this. But I like to just give myself a little starting point. And maybe some of this English red, I think this is. Oh no, it's not. Burnt sienna, sorry, burnt sienna. So we'll start with those. So they're getting a little bit wet. And where's my brush? Excuse me. I think I'll just use a bit of a bigger brush. Yeah, just to get some of this paint across. So let's take some of this green. So I just waggle my brush. That's an official technical term, that. It's quite a lot of water in there. And don't forget, one of the things I have learnt about watercolour is as long as you've got some paper towel close at hand, you can soak up excess water. Your brush will also, a dried off brush will also soak up a lot of excess water. So, just like that, you see. And I always just transfer it like that. So that's a good starting point to have. So I'm going to wash off in there. Double dab. Let's double dip. See, it's still got a little bit on it as well. Double dip. And then I want some of that brown, because I reckon, you know, there's not just these 5 colours, there's loads of colours in this image, but I can get them all from, you know, you don't have to have every colour from your palette, from your pan, sorry, in your palette. Now I like to then pop some of this here. I think traditionally people would say this is already too watery, but this is how I like to work. So I've left a space there because I'm going to mix them two together. I'm probably going to do it there. This will end up being the colour that I'm trying to use, but then I have these on standby to add more and less throughout my painting. Now, whether people go, oh, that's quite a waste,
That's quite a waste. I'm all right with it. I don't mind. I don't mind. Right, let's try and get this grey on the go then. This bluey grey. It's a lovely, you know, like you see New England used as a description for like interiors and stuff, you know, like Maine in the USA. You have your like New England kind of by the sea kind of greys and blues. That's what this one reminds me of. So I've got some colour there. That's black. And then I'm going to take some blue to my palette from my pans. I think this indigo might be a good option. Waggle, 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 twiddle, twiddle, twiddle. That's a lovely blue. That's going to be useful to me in this picture, I think, that. So I'll go back dipping in there for sure. Double dip. And let's have some of this brighter blue on hand. Just because. Twiddle, twiddle. Could use water brushes as well, you know, people, colouring book users, what do they call us? Colourists. They're like a water brush, no, not water brush. What is it? A water pen? A water brush pen. One of these. Can use one of these as well. I think it depends what you're used to, you know, from school. I remember brushes, you know, traditional brushes, so I tend to lean towards them. And then what have we got? Some ochres. Let's get some yellow ochre and some burnt sienna into this palette. Lovely jubbly. I hope when I'm done here, you feel like you can try out your watercolours, you know, because I'm certainly no expert. I'm putting myself right out there. You know, I'm being vulnerable for you guys. So this is burnt sienna. I'll pop her there. She's a beauty. There we go. So we've got some paint in this palette now, and I think that's enough to be getting on with. I'm going to add a little bit of Naples yellow, because it's milky. This is the one colour that I feel is milky. Does that even make sense? You don't have white in watercolour because you lighten things by using less pigment and more water, I guess. But if I did have white, it'd be this. It's the lightest colour I've got, and it's like it's milky to me. Oh look, don't worry about that. Don't ever worry about stuff like that happening with watercolour. Does not matter. Look, hardly fussed it. Right then. Right, let's get this cleaned off. I don't need this anymore. This brush is a little big for what I want to do, I think. So what am I working on first then? Shall I go for these browns on roof? Shall I try and get a good brown?
Well, at this point I was reasonably optimistic that I was going to be able to create a reasonable replica of the image on the opposite page. So at this point, you know, Piggy Pens Joe is filled with optimism. And I'm looking forward to everything that lays ahead. So first of all, I'm trying to mix the colour to match the roof on the opposite page, which I think is meant to be like straw. But I'm struggling a little bit, so I'm still not in a panic mode or anything like that at this time. I'm just enjoying the process of dipping my brush in paint, which is always lovely. And it doesn't have to be exact anyway when you're doing these things. But yeah, I did persevere for quite a while, and I'm trying to think, is it more warmer tones I need to add or more cooler tones? I'm still very much, learning on the job, if you know what I mean. As with every page I do, I'm learning. So I'm quite satisfied at this point with this brownie colour I've got going on. And I'm chatting away there, look, thinking I'll be including all that audio in this video. Well, it was just too damn long in the end because of reasons, we'll come to eventually. So I had to obviously speed it up. So at this point, I'm quite happy. You can see it's coming along pretty good. And then I'm moving on to this bit. And this is where I think I just were a little bit too relaxed, really. And I don't think I colour very well when I'm chatting, to be honest. I'll be honest. I think I distract myself. So this part wasn't too bad. I was just trying to add a little bit of depth to where each layer of straw sort of meets. Then I'm onto this larger area. And this is where I think I just got a little bit too relaxed and a little bit too carefree. And I'm busy, chatting away to you guys. Probably about who knows what. You know me. The chat is as much a part of the channel as the colouring is. So I just have to live with it. I can't stop myself. Talking of which, I'm now recording this on the morning after the fantastic Tubeathon. So that happened yesterday. And it was an enormous success. So I'm really, really chuffed. I'm in a good place mentally this morning, if not a little bit tired. I think I'm coming down with a cold or something. But anyway, so at this point, you can see it's starting to get a little bit muddy. I don't think I've mixed the best colour, and I don't think I'm using the paint as well as I could be. I think I'm a little bit wet, and I'm not enjoying the paper as much as I thought I would. So just to recap you, I colour in colouring books, all sorts of different colouring books, your Kirby's, Kanoko and Gooses. I've used watercolouring and things like that, and it's always been fine. And I would say fine / successful even, in terms of my own feelings about my watercolour sessions in those books. And I've also done paintings, just a couple, on really good high quality watercolour paper. And I've enjoyed that process as well. And now this is a book that's, the pages are designed to be watercolour pages. They look like watercolour pages, but they just don't feel. Already I'm finding them a little bit odd, and I can't make my mind up why they don't feel as good as I thought they were going to do, these pages. But I'm persevering. I think I am working a little bit too wet possibly, and I'm not used to colouring anything architectural, so houses, and this is a complete first for me. If I were doing watercolour, it'd be something very natural. It might be a landscape scene, it might have tall grasses or flora in it, that's the only kind of thing I've dabbled in. So trying to actually draw straight lines or paint straight lines with watercolour is something quite different, and I realise at this point that it's actually not the best example of. This is not a video about watercolour in colouring books, because this isn't a normal colouring book. It's a watercolouring book. But I still don't think would be as good as trying to replicate that house on proper watercolour paper. And it's funny, when I flipped through these books, a lot of people were interested in them. But one person I remember did say, it's not actually great watercolour paper in there, Jo. It's not too good at all. And I can remember thinking, well, I'll take it with a pinch of salt and I'll know when I try it out. But the thing is, I'm not experienced enough to know, really. So it's a bit like I'm sort of like wandering around in the dark here with my watercolours. I am struggling with them at this point. I'm enjoying my day. I'm enjoying my colouring session. But at this point, I am thinking, oh, this isn't going to plan. And I kind of wish I'd just recorded the preparation for that person. But I'll let the camera roll because I were in the moment. So then I'm onto these windows. And you could really do with using a small squared off brush. You can get these squared off watercolour brushes that are brilliant for things like brickwork and small windows and things like that. So that's really what I could have done with. I've got a rounded ended brush, so drawing lots of little squares and angles. I keep saying drawing, you'll have to forgive me. Painting angles and square things. It's not ideal with a round brush, but I'm giving it a good go. But already I'm realising that I'm not doing a great job of this. But it's practice, isn't it? So I'm carrying on. I'm hoping I can turn it around. I'm just trying to get colour down. And I don't know the way that they've approached it. You see this house, this boathouse has got a shadow, it's got some sort of roof, which is casting a shadow over the front of the building. How have they put that in? I don't know. Has it been put in over all the layers of the other paint underneath, the door, the windows, or have they painted that in totally separate? So I'm not experienced enough in watercolour to know that, so I'm just winging it basically. Which, it's not always unhelpful just to wing things, because you learn things as you go, but really, watching a tutorial for something like this I think would have been useful. But of course there isn't one that exists for this exact image that I'm trying to replicate. So at this point I'm kind of cringing a little bit, like, oh, this is not this I feel a bit out of control, which I'm never happy when I feel like I've lost control. But I'm persevering. Why did I take that shadow that far down as well? I've just realised there isn't even a second doorway there. What have I done that for? Not concentrating, you see. Too busy gassing as usual. And I'm obviously telling you about the situation there, what I'm feeling. I can't remember what that was. It won't have been useful information, do not worry. But I think the way I'm mixing my paints, I'm quite happy with. So, and you'll find your way of doing it. I do recommend you watch videos like Jenna, Rainey's, and things like that. Proper watercolour artists. Start with the artists that do watercolour for a living, I would say, to learn how to use your brushes and techniques and things like that. And then move on to some great colouring book, colouring book colourists and artists like Jackie at Spare Room Studio that uses water in her books and stuff like that. And there's loads of other people as well. Jackie's just my go-to. That's why you hear me mention her a lot. So yeah, I would recommend that you start with some videos on watercolour as an art form rather than as a colouring media. So I get fed up with myself here because look what a mess I've made of that. It's muddy. I've used too much water. So I've moved on to something else just to give myself I can paint this little anchor on front. That's not too bad. And I'm thinking I'm just going to let it dry and I'm going to be able to rescue it. I'm still pretty hopeful at this point. And then I'm working on there's 2 flower tubs in front of this house. And I'm starting to think about putting some colour in those. But spoiler alert, I make a complete ash of those as well. So things are not going well. I don't mind the grass that I put in. This is me trying to sort of gain some confidence back. So I've moved on, putting the grass in. I'm sorry if you're picking up a little bit of noise in background as well. It's my washing machine that's on. I've been known for videos to pause my cycle and then start it up again, but I'm going to see if it really affects the audio at all, actually, because I'm sat pretty close to my phone. In our house, we don't have a door between the kitchen and the living room. So if I'm sat in the living room, which I am, and the washing machine's on, sadly, you do hear it. So yeah, I'm going in with a green colour now to kind of replicate these bushes that are growing, these plants that are growing in these little flower containers. But I went too dark, so that's on me for sure. I definitely went too dark. I could be zooming you in here, but you're not going to learn anything from me zooming you in because, in fact, I will do it. Let's have a little look just how bad it is. Here we go. There you see, not great. Let's come back out again. Just a little. so you can also see what I'm trying to replicate. There we go. So yeah, this is at this point I've decided, well, do you know what, it's an absolute mess. Let's just see what you can learn from using the rest of this page as practice. So that's what I had in my mind now. So I just, without too much thought, started, you know, getting some colour into the foreground. And then that's when my husband returned home, so I took a little break at this point.
Oh, Lord have mercy. So it is the next day. My husband came home just as I were faffing with this horse last night, and I were in an extremely grumpy mood with my performance on this page. So I left it for the night. And I haven't given it another thought, if I'm being honest. But I spoke to Amy last night, who was my buddy on it, and we were laughing because she had a bit of a mare, but she practiced on a page first, which, you know, would have been the sensible thing for me to do. It's just, I have just not done a good job. She was saying she finds the paper weird. And funnily enough, when I did a flip through of this book, somebody commented and said the paper in it's not actually really good for watercolour. It's not proper watercolour paper. I think that's what the words they used. But I took it with a pinch of salt. And I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about watercolour to know. This video, I literally have no idea what you're going to get at this point in real time while I'm filming now. I have no idea what you're going to get as a video. I think what it's going to turn out to be is, when you're faced with an absolute disaster, or what you see as a disaster, as a beginner, it's so important not to give up. It really is super important that you don't give up at this point. So I'm not gonna, in solidarity for us, you know, beginner colorists and certainly watercolorists, I'm gonna try and persevere and rescue it. I've got to send something to Amy. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see what we can do with it. What an absolute... It's just, this colour's too muddy. That's on me. That's definitely my fault. That's nothing to do with paper. I don't know whether filming affected my concentration. I can't really make excuses. I've just done a bad job of it. But when I say that about myself, you don't have to say, oh, don't be so hard on yourself, because I'm not. I'm just a realist. So I get over things pretty quickly. I always like to kind of triumph over adversity rather than give up. So I'm going to try and turn it into a teaching opportunity for myself. This here looks a bit... I think I was just generally too wet. You actually don't need to be as wet as... Naturally, like when I'm on my watercolour paper, like when I did them florals, that paper could take the wet, you know, and it were an enjoyable experience, and I love the results. This is a colouring book meant for watercolour, but still, I don't think it is the best watercolour paper. It's like paper doing an impression of being watercolour paper, if that's possible. I think that, again, I'm not experienced enough to know. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try and go back in now it's all dry. And just, I'm not going to worry about it looking like that. I just want it to look like something. So, yeah, Rocket's here with me again today. I've got a date starting because he's just been such a barky little sausage today. Barking in my earlug. And he does that sometimes. It's like his version of Zoomies when he's just having a silly half hour. Just barks in my earlug. And he's been doing that. And I've got a date starting, so... I've had a big glass of water and some tablets, and we're going to crack on and we're going to make this work, and I'm going to show you it. Which is, don't ever feel like you've got to post your work as well, because I think if you do, this is important, if you feel like you've got to post every page, you're going to stress about how your page has turned out, and I really don't think that's a good idea. You don't have to post your work, and that also means that you can make mistakes and have fun with them. So playing about and practicing, this is now a practice page for me. I'm going to see what I can get out of it, but it's certainly, am I a bit embarrassed to be showing it? Yeah, but what kind of creator would I be if I only showed you the good stuff? I wouldn't be a very good YouTube creator, would I, if I hid the bad stuff? Although I say there's nothing such things as bad colouring. there is times when you're not at your best. This isn't. I've done watercolour better than this, so you know, we are where we are. So I've added a little bit of water, less than yesterday, just to re-wet some of these, and I'll take it a bit steadier with water, and maybe you should do the same. Please do remember what I said at the beginning of this video. I'm a beginner, so this isn't a how to do it. This is a let's see how we get on together as two beginner colourists. You might just be watching for entertainment purposes, and that's fine as well. So I think what I'd like to do is, I don't mind how I've got the dark in this window up here. It's not ideal, but it's all right. So I'd like to start by trying to get some dark in these 4 windows. That'd just make me feel a bit better. So I think I'm gonna give that a go. What with this indigo and a bit of black? What's that one? A bit same. This is a bit brighter, isn't it? I'm gonna go for this one. And they do a brushes about this size, but they're right square on end, and they're brilliant if you're into watercolour on buildings, because it makes things like these windows really easy. And also brickwork, you'll see watercolour artists very easily putting brickwork in with those square-ended brushes.
So here we go. Second day on this page, and I'm trying to sort of rescue the page, maybe. I've resigned myself to the fact it may be a loss, but I'm still hoping to get something out of it, if not something physical like a completed page, something more like a lesson or practice, practice time. I'm trying to make it so this wasn't a waste of my time, so I want to get something from it. But I'm already feeling that no, I'm not enjoying it still. Not enjoying it. And I can't get, although the paper was very dry this morning, I weren't getting any straight lines. Maybe my brush is just too big. Maybe I need a square-ended brush. But we're having none of it. But look, I'm persevering. I'm trying my best to rescue the situation. And then I just lose my damn mind as usual. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, this is well and truly fucked up. So you can see I'm not doing anything. This is me sat contemplating my life choices, and I'm thinking about calling Amy at this point and saying, yeah, well, I ain't got a page for you. I'm afraid. So still thinking.
I've decided to move on now and just I was just thinking then I might just phone Amy and text Amy and just say this isn't gonna be getting finished. So she's really laid back though, is Amy. She ain't bothered about like whether she posts or anything. She's not fussed like that. She's just about the actual colouring. So I know she won't mind. She won't care two hoots. But I thought I'll just carry on and let's get some little brush practice with them. This is a nice effect, isn't it, you see? It's just a shame. I don't think I'm a house colourist when it comes to watercolour, which is a shame because they're beautiful images. Maybe you do for houses, maybe you do need some of them square-ended brushes. I can't blame anything on tools or the paper really. It's a lack of skill. But we have to start somewhere, don't we? If we don't go through this process that I'm going through now, how do we get better? You can't just think about it and then get better, can you? You have to practically try. You have to try. So let me get some browny colours in there as well. Then we have these. See, this kind of thing I'm much more comfortable with. I don't think the discipline and restraint that you have to have for straight lines is maybe suited to my skill level. I think florals and things like that are a great place to start, because they're a lot more, you know, a petal, a leaf can fold all sorts of ways. You don't have to be so accurate, do you? Yeah, the house is an absolute disaster, but like I say, let's use it as practice. So now then, where's this brownie colour I wanted? Where's that? Oh, look at that. Where's that brownie colour? Let's take it from here. I'm actually going to go straight from the palette, straight from the pan almost. And let's just practice some little, it's very hard with this size brush to get them little, pit pens would do a good job here, I think. I'm trying to just see what I can do with my watercolour brush. How fine a line can I get with it? I guess it's a good book to practice in. Well, no, it's a good book to do colouring in if you're into watercolour and you've got a bit of experience. But if you haven't got experience, you've already got the book. Why not make it a practice book? That's what it's going to be now. I'm going to try my best, but I guess with every picture, every page, it will get a little bit better, hopefully. See, already I'm just getting thinner strokes just with that little bit of practice. Yeah, if I even put this video out, I hope what it does for you is just lets you know that you've got to carry on and just try. Don't give up on things. I feel like giving up. I'd rather just go on to my next page, which I know is nice Maria Trolle page, some cute mice and some florals. I'll probably do it in pencil and I'll be far more comfortable, and that's going to give me confidence back. But I've got a learning opportunity here, chance for some practice. So that's what I'm doing. straight from the pan. Obviously gives me a darker, more towards opaque colour. Because I've got less blobs of water on the brush, I can make finer strokes. So that's good practice. You could really take your time, you know, this is the thing. If I weren't so disheartened with this, could I have lived with that? I could have probably lived with this upper area. This is tragic. And sadly it's probably the focus point of the picture. But I'm trying to turn it into a practice opportunity. From the pan again. I didn't like feel it paper under my hand there. It's funny, isn't it?
So I'm here now, look, having a little bit of more of a faff. Just contemplating things, thinking about, you know, where I might have gone wrong and things like that. Just trying to sort of take something from it. And I'm truly now using it as a little bit of practice. I'm just trying to see how thin I can indicate the slats in the door and sort of how fine point I can get with that smallest brush that I own. Well, aren't we going on a journey together with this? I think I'm just going to go on to this, which is my next buddy colour. And I think I'm going to use these watercolours right here. I've messaged Amy and I've sent her a picture. I've just said I'm sacking this off. Luckily she's really laid back and she's not bothered about posting and stuff, so I'm sure she'll understand. But I've practiced as much as I want to with this page now. What I need to do for myself, and this is sometimes good advice, is I need to do something to regain my confidence. So let's put aside this. I'm not gonna get rid of this book. I'm gonna maybe use it and try and just practice with each page. They are quick enough pages that you can, but they're very architectural. I mean, if you don't like houses, I mean, I think these are beautiful, but they're done by skilled people, you see. A skilled person, should I say. So I'm going to put this to one side, because what I don't want this to do is affect my mood or my confidence going into my next page. I know that I can paint with watercolour slightly better than that. Slightly. So let's put it to one side and do something positive. Now, going straight into another watercolour could be a bad move, couldn't it? I suppose. But I think, I don't know. I think I need to remind myself that I'm not as bad as that page made me feel, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to set up my board again with my next colouring page. There we go. No bounce back on this paper. It's a big brush, but let's just see. I love it when watercolour just pulls at the incline. You'll find that'll happen a lot, and it's nice. It kind of, the line of ink kind of acts like some sort of boundary that the water won't cross unless you really ask it to, and I enjoy that. So here we are, look, I'm using what I had in the palette.
trying to give myself a positive experience. Right, let's turn this situation around then. She's still got a lot of wet there. A lot of wet. But I'm going to move it around. Hopefully quite quickly. I could go to my smaller brush, but you know, probably gathered by now that I don't generally make life easy for myself. So, shall I paint or shall I just base? What is the difference? I guess the difference is detail. Basing will be one layer of flat colour, won't it? And I suppose I'd add different depth of colour if I were going to be painting, or I'd go back in and do some more layers, adding detail. But let's just, I've got a plan for this page yet, but just thought it would be useful to get some colour on it with the watercolour I had already in the palette from my disaster. We're not going to talk about that anymore. Good vibes only. But we're not going to pretend it didn't happen because we're going to learn from it. Yeah, I've got my granddaughter visiting tomorrow. So when my husband finishes work tomorrow, he's out for the night tonight on a job. He's not a cat burglar. Tomorrow when he comes home, he will be returning with our granddaughter with him. So I will have the house tidy and all my chores out of the way, ready to enjoy some time with her. And I've no doubt she'll want to do some colouring as well, so I might ask her to finish that page off for me in that book, that house. I think that'd be a cute little thing to do together. So when I look at the page, then I've got happy thoughts from it. I remember a time, you know, spending time with my granddaughter on it. That'd be a good way of turning it around as well. So, okay, I quite like this colour for this mouse. And I think I'll just add something for the babies. Maybe do each one just a slightly different colour from the same pool of, you know, paint here. I'll just add something. Maybe I'll add some, make it a little bit more grey toned for one. Maybe a bit more warm toned for the other. Give them their individual sort of look. Or I might just do more the same. So yeah, that's still really wet, so don't forget, just dab your brush off. You can always take paint off. Works a treat, look. Works a treat. That's one of the reasons I like these brushes that hold a lot of water, because they will soak up a lot of water as well. So there you go. It's good. I mean, you do need to watch, if you want to watch videos on watercolour, I definitely encourage you to watch somebody like Jenna, Rainey. But if this just helps you feel like you're not on the journey on your own, then that's wonderful for me. That's all I want to achieve, really. We're in this together. So let's give a more, a little more of a, might do it separate actually. Let's bring it here with a little bit of that won't have much effect. Just a little bit more of a redder tone for this chap here. I think this was a little boy. That's what I've decided anyway. I've left the inside of their ears because I think they have pink ears. There's a lot of water on that brush. Let's just pick some up and move it around. And I still haven't gone to my smaller brush. But the wonderful thing is, look at the end. Its taper's very small. I'm pushing my luck though, aren't I? But so far I'm enjoying it with this brush. There we go. He's got a sweet little face. Hello, you're coming to life. Slowly. And then oh, he's got a little bit more of his body there. Oops. There we go. That will do for him for now. And then this little girl here, she's a girl. She's going to have a bit more yellowy. Yellowy tone. Let's pop that just in there like that. Just a touch more yellowy than her mummy. Yeah, this is good practice on how fine the sort of line you can get with the end. Yeah, Jenna Rainey does some great exercises in her beginner's course to watercolour using this brush, you know, by just like letting the brush do the work. Yeah, she does a lot of this sort of stuff where she's like, I don't know whether I've got enough paint on my thing here to show you, but you know, for leaves, she teaches. I ain't got enough water on. Hang on. So for leaves, she teaches. You know, you're placing it down and then lifting. You know, so you get that lovely leaf shape. That's too wet, but you know what I'm getting at, don't you? It's really quite therapeutic following a few of her little exercise drills, if you like. So yeah, check her out, Jenna Rainey. Just to get yourself used to the brushes and the way watercolour handles. She's a watercolour artist. I don't actually know, I think she does quite a few things. And this guy, shall we have a little bit more greyer tone? To his. You notice I'm trying to use what's in this palette already. A little more, I think. Well, this is a new one. Rocket's whining, but he's got access to outside, so what's this new thing he could possibly be whining about? He's had his walk, he's had his breakfast, he's had tons of cuddles this morning, he's had a telling off, barking in middle of goal. Oops. Love it. That's a quick way to get some base colour down, isn't it? What do we think on inside of ears? What are we thinking? I'll go with a little bit of this. A little bit of this pink. I haven't decided on a colour palette for this page as yet. Well, I wonder if I should use some of my Neo Colour 2s on it, because I'm dying to use them blooming, that dark set that I've just got, that 50th anniversary dark set. I got all the 50th anniversary sets, but the dark ones, there's dark garnet, and Caput Mortem, and the beautiful. So I wonder if I could do some like burgundy and peachy flowers in this. I quite like burgundy with peach. Peachy type of colour. There we go. I'm just going to carry on, I think. Just going to carry on. I've got a lot of colours in here I probably won't need, but we'll see. We will see. Oops, don't want to go into my green there, do I? I've still not decided whether I'm basing or painting here. You should really have that in. You should really know that at this point. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go for it. I kind of want some dark reds, I think, and I've got these berries, which I've just noticed are good as well, because I can tag the hashtag HollyVIvy 2026 hashtag that Inky Ivy and Hollyberry Colours are doing. So that's any berries or any vines in pictures. So I think I'd like to go with like a dark blue, deep reds, and then peachy accents. All right, I've just had to stop and mop floor because he's coming from his adventures in the vegetable beds, which is brilliant. So yes, I think that's what I'm going to go with, and I'm just going to wing it and see where we end up. I'm not going to bother washing my palette or anything like that. I've got some blues for when I get to the berries. We'll figure everything else out. I'm going to put some greens in. I'm going to get these tails in. What colour are Mice's tails? Are they pinky as well? Yeah, do we think?
Well, I'm glad that background noise has stopped now we've started the voiceover part again. So yeah, that house painting at this point is now sort of a distant memory, because I'm slowly growing my confidence back. Basing that mouse in watercolour has done me the world of good. I feel really good about it as a base. And I'm going to carry on basing the rest of this page in watercolour, and I'll add, it is just basing, but I will add, you know, extra colour in some places. I like to do that, but it's not ever going to be a completed watercolour page. So it's going to be a base, and then I will go back in and add some pencil. So yeah, I really enjoyed this process as well, and it was nice to be a little freer with my watercolour brush instead of so uptight. I also don't think I enjoy copying from another picture. I don't think that's for me at all. I felt too concerned with getting the exact colour, and I don't enjoy that. In fact, I don't think I like copying anybody, and maybe that's why I don't follow any tutorials. Maybe I'm a bit pig-headed, and I'm just like, I like to do my own thing. I think if I'm being honest, I think it's more that I don't like to feel bad about my skill level. I like to feel good, even if I kind of have a realistic impression of where my level is, you know, where I'm at. But I don't, you know, I always like to be quite positive. And I think when I compare myself so directly to an image or somebody else's colouring, I'm only ever going to come off second until I get a lot better, you know. So I don't like to do that. I still like to walk around thinking that I'm awesome to myself, and what's wrong with that? That's healthy. You've got to big yourself up sometimes. So I do that. I like to feel good about my own performance, and comparisons I don't think help that. So not for me anyway, not for the way my mind works. And that, just to reiterate, I know where I'm at the moment, and I've got a long way to go to be a really good colourist. But yeah, I still like to feel really good about what I'm doing. And doing my own thing is the best way to get there, I think. So I love this process of colouring in all these greens. So I just had a few different kind of greens and like brownie colours in the palette, and I just dipped in whenever I wanted to. I loosely kept a certain type of green for for the berries, for the foliage on the berries, and I kept other types of greens for other plants, but it was really loose. I didn't think too much about it. And that's a great thing about watercolour. If one colour leaks into another, it only, I think, adds to it looking more natural, if you like. I can see a little bit of paint pooling at the bottom of those two larger leaves, and that's fine by me. I like that look in the end. And your paper may wrinkle if you do that. If you have a lot of water on your page, your paper may wrinkle. But I iron my pages if they're too wrinkled, and I've never had a page where I've been disappointed in how it's turned out because I've used water on it. My ironing technique is I have a pillowcase which I fold in half, and half goes under the back of that page, and then it folds over, the other half folds over the front of the page, and just with a warm iron I'll go over the front of the illustration, covered in the pillowcase, and that usually takes out any crinkles. I haven't needed to do that much. I did it once, I think, on another Maria Trolle page, was it? Can't remember, but I think I've only done it once or twice, but my iron and my pillowcase is on standby upstairs should I ever need to do it. So I have got quite a bit of the foliage done now, and I think this really helps when you paint something in the background, or if a large portion of what you're looking at is foliage as opposed to flowers. I like to get that painted in first, because I think the main elements, which for me are the flowers, after the mouse and the mice, those flower heads, I want them to stand out more than the foliage. So I like to get the foliage in or the background in first, and then I can see what I'm looking at, really. And I often think your page feels like you've got a lot done in it if you start with those big elements or background elements first. You end up thinking, wow, I've actually done loads of pages. It seems like an easy sort of slog to the finish then. Now I'm moving on to the flowers, so I'm mixing, I said I wanted to kind of go quite a deep red, kind of like a caput mortem, very, very dark red, or a plummy red would be nice, and some peachy colours. So I'm just mixing a little bit of paint in the palette now. But more will get added to that, and I'll add some blues probably and things like that. So I'm just going in with the peach now on these flowers. It's a little bit dark, that, for what I wanted, but you might find a lighting it up. Okay, so where next? Oh, I like this aspect of watercolouring in flowers. So I just go in with maybe a darker colour that I fancy, while the lighter colour underneath is still rather wet, and I just dot it in. I just, get some darker colour on my brush and just touch the end of that brush against the pooling water that's already there in that lighter colour, and just let it sort of bloom and bleed a little bit into the other colour. I do like that for florals. It might not be for everybody, but that's what I like to do. And that's why sometimes you'll look at your page and you probably think, well, it doesn't need pencil, it's kind of cute as it is. But I haven't got to that point yet where I feel like my painting is good enough to leave it. But I haven't tried for that yet. I've just been basing. So maybe I'll get brave and try a full watercolour page soon. I love this colour that I mixed for these flowers here. So just a really dark red. I love those really dark reds that look like congealed blood. I think I've just added some blue in there, and I like that. I like what it's done to it, and that it's just like sort of bleeding out a little bit. I like that. Just looks a little bit, might look wrong at the moment, but the finished result I'm really happy with. So I'm going in and doing my berries now. They're quite dark. I could have done them a bit lighter. But it's the end of the month at this point, and I'm keen to get this buddy done. I intended to do it in pencil, as I mentioned earlier in video, but now I'm doing this right in this moment. I'm thinking, well, this is great. This is going to knock this page out today, and because the pencil that I'll be doing on top won't be high quality pencil shading like I would do on a full pencil page. This is what I call my scruffy shading. So once this is dried, I'll go have something to eat probably. Come back when this is dry, and tonight I'll just do some scruffy pencil shading in the areas that I think need it, and just and to add a little bit of contrast, because there's nowhere near enough contrast in this page as it is. So yeah, scruffy pencil shading, which is just what it sounds like. I don't take too much time. I don't blend anything perfectly. It's just a shade quickly in areas to indicate light and dark. So that's what I call my scruffy shading. Now I've mixed, I've added sort of more brighter, I think it was magenta I put in there, just to make it a little brighter, that red that I had. And I've got some purpley colours going on in the middle of that palette that I'm just bringing in as and where I think I need it. So I've got my two sort of more muted looking flowers, and I've got this bit of a brighter flower in the middle. So far I'm liking it. I've just add a little bit of pink to their noses. And that's about it for my base.
I love it. Let's see what happens. Let's let that dry. I'll come back in a while and we'll do some pencil work on it. So we're turning things around, feeling more positive about the watercolour experience. So never fear. And I've got a feeling I'm going to love this page when I finish with it. I think it's going to be one of my faves. Looks a bit of a mess now, especially with my clumsiness. But we'll figure something out. All right, I'll be back.
Actually, I won't be back because I didn't have enough space on my phone to carry on recording on this evening. So I did the colouring that I talked about, and now I'll show you the final result. And I really like it, considering I started painting this page in the afternoon, then I took a break for dinner for a couple of hours, and then I came back and did an hour or so on it in scruffy shading in the evening. I'm really, really pleased with it. With that in mind, the lighting is different because the photograph is taken the next morning in daylight just by a windowsill, and the other one has obviously got evening desk lamp lighting on it. You can see I've done a lot of shading, but most of it is in the darker areas to add contrast. So for example, on those big leaves, most of that at the top in the lighter areas isn't shaded, or it's minimally shaded. I've kept most of the shading and heavy shading to the areas I wanted more contrast. Just zoomed in a little bit for you so you can see what I mean. So if you look on those green leaves at the top there, and on the other green leaves, you can see that it's not perfect blending. It's an indication. So I'm shading in an area to indicate this area is darker. So it's not over complex, and it doesn't take as long to do as, you know, perfectly smoothly blended shading, which is beautiful, but I just don't have time at the end of the month. To summarise now and wrap this up, I feel loads better than I did before I started this page. I'd kind of forgotten about that awful morning/afternoon that I had with the other page with the house on. That's long gone now. So guys, don't give up straight away. Do persevere. Try and turn it into something valuable like practice or knowledge or experience when you're faced with something like that. And don't leave it too long before you return back to that media. So I went straight into another page, straight into my next page with the exact same media, even using the exact same palette, because I wanted to quickly turn around how I was feeling. I wanted to quickly turn around the confidence that I had in myself, which was low at that point. Now, going straight into that page and using watercolour again, I feel great. Looking at my completed page now. So yeah, think about those things. Don't give up straight away. Try and turn it into something valuable, and don't stay away from that supply for too long. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this roller coaster of a ride through watercolour as a beginner. I hope you've enjoyed it and it hasn't been too long for you. Until next time, ta-da for now!